Hi, all, and welcome to the Found Artist Files, the podcast that delves into real stories that inspire, uplift, and remind you that no matter who you are, your story matters. Every journey, no matter how big or how small, is worth celebrating. Here, we'll explore the powerful narratives of everyday people, artists, creators, and dreamers just like you, sharing the struggles, triumphs, and lessons learned along the way. So keep going, keep creating, and remember, you're crafting your own unique path, one story at a time. Let's dive in. Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's episode. Today with us we have Logan Miller. Hi Logan.
Hello, how are you?
Awesome, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
I'm great here in lovely Los Angeles, in the wake of, political division from Donald Trump and our industry yet again, and so I'm feeling bright and shiny.
Yeah, I mean, obviously on this, what is it, a little gloomy or a little sunny day, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, awesome. Well, would love to start off with learning just a little bit more about who you are and what it is that you do in the industry.
Yeah, well, my name's Logan Miller. I am an actor, writer, and director. I have been acting in the industry since I was 13 years old. Through that, I have done an immense amount of television, independent features, studio features, and now in the past 5 years or so, I've then taken that passion to kind of go behind the camera, writing narrative features, directing them, and helping other filmmakers produce their dreams and content as well.
Awesome. Well, going back to the beginning, since you've kind of been in the industry for a little bit, can you even remember what was one of your first memories that really drew you to being in the space and wanting to realize that you want to act?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was just being so immersed in filmmaking as a child. I mean, my parents were always taking me to Blockbuster and introducing me to new movies. And, I mean, I think being truly, captivated and so fearful of the things that were presented to me on screen. Everything always felt completely real. I think that my childhood sensibility was always really immersed in what I was visualizing. And so, my parents took me to a screening of Speed very young. And it was me and my grandparents, and I think I was screaming through the entire film, only to come out into the lobby and then say to my grandfather that I thought that it was the best show that I've ever seen. And so, being completely, almost scared but then captivated at the same time, I think kind of correlated that sensibility to always want to create something like that. And then throughout my childhood, I was gathering all of the neighborhood kids to do remakes of some of my favorite films. We remade Spider-Man. We remade The Matrix. I then made my own rendition of the action franchise Hitman, where my sister, who was also my partner in crime, was gunned down and I had to avenge her death. And the evil supervillain was the boy across the street with a speech impediment. So, it really was cultivating a community, I think, is kind of what really led me to want to be a filmmaker.
Yeah, and it seems like it kind of also perfectly brought you into the directing role that you're going into now, being able to see talent everywhere you look. I love that.
Exactly.
Do you remember booking your first role at 16 and being able to describe a little bit more about what that experience truly felt like?
Yeah, well, my first booking for a job was probably 13 or 14. I booked an audition for Star Wars Transformers, where I was going to be dressed as a Jedi Knight, and I was going to be transforming this lovely Star Wars vehicle into a Jedi. I remember they made me get a manicure for the first time in my life. Paid for also. Thank you, Hasbro. So my hands were looking hot and spicy, and I was ready to transform that model. And then from there, I was able to accumulate at least 4 or 5 different Hasbro commercials. Then from there, I then got my first acting job in a feature, which was Ghosts of Girlfriends Past, where I played a young Matthew McConaughey. And I think that casting is probably still the biggest compliment that I could have ever received in my life, to be young Matthew McConaughey.
And it seems like it set you up perfectly with getting, the first manicure and being like, this is really setting the stage for how I'm going to be entering the industry as well.
Yes. A complete, a primped up diva.
What would you say is something that, the industry that no school or no life lesson really could have prepared you for?
I think it's just, like, the resilience and, like, the acceptance of rejection, I think that, I was very lucky in the sense that the acting school that I went to, which was this acting coach named Catherine Sullivan, who still has her acting studio in Dallas, Texas today, kind of taught us early on that there is going to be a lot of rejection, and you are going to have these moments that are lapses in time for work, and to kind of have something outside of just the auditions and just the pursuit of the dream is really important. And I think that we're all humans and we want to, make everyone happy, and rejection itself is a terrible thing. But to understand that the rejection is not about you. It's about, what they are specifically looking for. You're going to give the best that you can in this audition. Your rendition might not be what the filmmaker's mindset is. And that's okay, because it's not necessarily that you're doing anything wrong. It's just that you ultimately aren't the vision that they are presenting.
Right, and rejection isn't a bad thing. If anything, it's more of like it's a learning in everything that you're doing. And so what it does is it also just, that door might be closing, but then it's opening up for the right role to be coming into alignment. And, you spoke a little bit about resilience and being able to understand that there's going to be a little bit of time in between some of projects and things like that. What would you say was some of the things that you were able to pick up, or some of the things that you were truly pursuing to really help you, one, stay grounded, but also be able to, fulfill your soul and fulfill your journey of wanting to continue in this space that does have rejections and things that are not so, sunshines and unicorns all the time?
Yeah. There's many things that are creative outlets in my life that I pursue that aren't just, they're correlated to the business, but they're not in direct parallels to them. I would say, a lot of my passion for music kind of keeps me grounded, and it's not necessarily like the most professional pursuit that I'm looking for music, but more of like a therapeutic thing for myself. And sometimes I do like to, throw that music out to the masses and to be able to have an audience for that. But it's kind of more for self-discovery rather than, a professional pursuit into the music industry. Along with that, it's just, traveling and exploring and trying to go and see as many historic places as possible, and, just being active in my community and my friendship circle. The people that I have accumulated in my life is so valuable and important, because, not only is there common ground with so many different people that are in the industry, but, during these times of struggle and peril, we can all work together and kind of, lift each other up and help each other along the way if we're struggling, or if we just need, a shoulder to cry on, or we just need someone to hang out with in a backyard or go on a hike. Like, the community is so important.
Oh, absolutely. I think that community is one thing that I hope that people don't take for granted, or that they look over, because the one thing about it is that, especially as people are artists and creatives, like, we're all trying to work towards the same goal. We're all trying to achieve our own goals and achieve our own dreams. And speaking of films and speaking of directing, are there any stories that you're truly drawn to being able to tell, or emotions or themes that you're really compelled to explore visually?
I kind of like unsung heroes. I like kind of societies that are in, like, kind of the dark, or people that don't get a focal point. Maybe just kind of niche audience kind of stories. You know, I mean, this movie that we're making about the demolition derby community, I'd say, is probably not at the forefront of everyone's brain. Some people have even questioned what demolition derby is altogether, which I don't think that anybody would know that it's a professional bumper cars, kind of. Like, you know, and this was a society that kind of cultivated together during even Prohibition times and was kind of adjacent to the NASCAR races of yesteryear. Unsung heroes, you know, just, I guess, placements in society that don't really get, like, the forefront, I suppose.
So, I mean, some of the topics that you wrote about, there had to have been a feeling or an emotion that was evoked for you to be like, this is something that needs to be told or something that I need to be able to tell. So can you just share a little bit more about, you know, especially those two projects that you have? What was that feeling that you were like, this is the story that I need to tell, or at least I need to be working on right now?
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, there have been, like, even though these two projects are, like, the things that are actually, like, popping off, you know, I'm fortunate to say that I've written at least, like, 6 or 7 different screenplays, and those have been unproduced, but, like, the general theme within all of them is they kind of lean towards, like, in the space of where they occupy, I'd say, like, kind of more of the Midwest. I'm somebody who grew up in the Midwest. I mean, my whole family is from Kansas. I then was born in Colorado, moved to New Mexico, Minnesota, and Texas. My parents still live in Texas, and so, you know, I'm very versed in this whole landing strip of the United States. And with that, you know, there comes a lot of characters that, you know, aren't at the front and center of our brains. You know, I think that a lot of stories tend to be coastal because, you know, that's where the entertainment industry lies, and so therefore there's more stories to tell. But you know, being from kind of a generally normal area of the United States, I want to kind of find the specificities of the eccentricisms, I guess, of the Midwest and what makes it interesting and what draws people towards it. Because, you know, as I get older, I come to find that I love these areas.
So would love to also just learn a little bit more about, like, how important do you think it is for, as a creative in general, being able to bring in some of your own personal experiences or your personal feelings or emotions when you are creating?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that you want to be able to write something that you've also experienced firsthand. You know, I mean, having kind of a familiarity of, like, what you're writing about is really important, and then expanding that with kind of, you know, the imaginative qualities that you have in your own mind can really make these things sing. All it really comes down to is just making the stories interesting, too. I don't think that you're going to become a good writer unless you pursue those experiences. Like, you know, get out in your community.
Yeah, absolutely. But I also think that, and one of the things that you touched on was being around the community, but it also brings a sense of self-awareness to be able to be in those communities and be aware of what is going on around you. So from your perspective, how has, like, your ability to be self-aware shaped sort of your creative style and how you move forward with any creative projects?
Yeah, well, you know, every time that I have an interesting conversation, interaction, or something, I kind of come back home and I think, oh, well, how can I use that to, you know, expand on my creative endeavors? And, like, as far as self-awareness, I'm extremely self-aware that I am a magnet that brings in, like, odd behavior. Like, anytime that I'm anywhere, like, my girlfriend and I will be at the airport, and the strangest man will come up to me and, you know, ask me for some kind of business pursuit or whatever. Like, it just, like, it happens, like, frequently, and I don't know why, but I am a magnet towards it. So if I have this opportunity, I might as well take advantage of it. And it's to, like, kind of be a sponge for these characters and then eventually bring them out into the world and give everybody a taste of my really egocentric and very odd day-to-day interactions.
Being in the indie space and also being around so many different, creative opportunities, one of the things that have really also grown in the space is wearing multiple hats, right? I mean, I think it's not like, oh, were you a writer, are you a director? It's like, I'm the writer, director, and producer. So someone who started in acting and is now, switching on over, or is also moving into their directorial debut and into directing a little bit more. What would you say were some of the things that you learned from an actor that you do want to take into your directing?
Yeah, I mean, as an actor, writer, director, hand model, OnlyFans model, I think that it's hard to be spread so thin with all of these different pursuits, but just making sure that you, stay focused on the prize. I think that initially, as I was making movies early on, kind of like my first short films and whatnot. As an actor, I always said, oh, well, if I'm going to create something, then I want to also be able to be the lead. But upon, further investigation, you can come to find that, people are one position on a job for a reason. And, there are some, Ben Stiller and many others that can wear all of those different hats. But in order to be able to be at the front of the camera, be the director, be the writer and the producer, you need to have, a really, really solid structure of people around you that can kind of expand in your brain. And so, I now have taken a step back from wanting to act in the things that I direct and then just act in other people's stuff right now.
And coming from, acting into directing, obviously you've been on sets and you've had other people direct you. Are there any directors in particular or just styles of directing that have really come, that you've come across that you're like, this is something that really aligns with me that I think would be such a wonderful theme or emotion to really bring into my directing debut?
Yeah, well, I've gotten the chance to work with so many amazing directors, and, some of the ones to kind of mention, I'd say, or the ones that kind of stood out to me the most was, I loved working with Kelly Reichardt. She had a very poised and kind of relaxed sensibility on what the energy was like on set. It's getting the people that you have cast in this film to portray what we already know is going to ultimately be good because, these actors have put in the work. The director, Chris Landon, I loved working with. I had such a great time with him. And, there was a lighthearted behavior that was on set that was also open to a lot of improv and collaboration. As a director, you have to be the captain of the ship. And even if you aren't necessarily confident in what's happening during that day, because I don't think that we're always 100% confident with anything that we do all of the time, but it's giving that energy off to everybody else in order to make the product the best it can be. And, if you got to go scream into your pillow later at the end of the night, then do it, but just don't do it on set.
Right, and I think to remember also that we're all humans, right? We're showing up the best that we can, but also knowing that you've built this team around you for a reason. That's the quote, it's showbiz. Things happen. Not everything is going to go as planned, but exactly. To trust the people that you have around you to be able to. And so how has sort of the process and the approach to, performances evolved throughout the years for you, and how are you looking to take those experiences and be able to include them in some of your films? Yeah,
as the acting process has definitely evolved in ways in the sense that I think, I don't want to say it's become more simple because it hasn't, but it's become a little bit easier for me with the 10,000 hours that I've put in. You know, I'm able to kind of jump into something a little bit quicker, or say memorize something quicker, because, you know, I've been looking at scripts since I was 12 years old. And so it's one, putting in that work to then make work easier down the line. It's like, well, once I have the predetermined knowledge, then I'm able to, like, utilize that as just kind of second nature.
And can you also remember from some of your experiences on set, was there anything that you were able to experience or for you to absorb that you're like, hey, this is going to change the way that I pursue my craft or my creativity?
Yeah, well, you know, I think that anytime that I've ever created something and I've, like, cast somebody in a job, I have always wanted them, you know, for who they are. I think that coming into acting in, like, the different mindset, I always am like, oh, well, what I present to the table initially isn't going to be good enough. Like, I am going to have to, like, kind of lean into this character more, or I don't know if I can do that. But then remembering to, like, if I was casting somebody in something, I would want to get them for their, like, authentic self. And yes, of course, like, some characters need more nuance and specificity as far as, like, really immersing yourself in somebody that's not you. But, like, ultimately, like, we're casting somebody because they are able to invoke this. And then, like, throughout the years, it's just about, like, communicating more. Being comfortable in knowing that this is a collaboration and you can voice your opinion. And if something feels more right than the other, you know, let's like set up that for debate.
Yeah, and talking about, you know, human collaboration and also being able to show up authentically, especially in the world that we live in right now that is sort of run by tech companies, is really run by algorithms. Do you think that there's still room in the industry for artistry over algorithms?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. I don't think that an algorithm is going to help any kind of creative endeavor other than, like, how to market the film itself. There's an arsenal of artists that are still actively working on this thing that I think can be this kind of middle ground of being able to collaborate with tech companies. But I truly do feel like the tech industry is the studio heads without any creative mindset added to the conversation. You know, I think that, you know, we call it the tech company because they are working in, like, technical developments, but they're not working in an industry that is inherently artistic. Artistic endeavors are made off the dome with, like, a humanistic quality, and you're never going to get that with just, like, an algorithm telling you what is going to be right for a certain demographic. The creativity and what's been, like, presented in front of the camera is always going to be artistic and can never be recreated with just a AI algorithm or anything else in that matter.
Say it louder for the people in the back, because we absolutely agree with that. What do you think needs to shift in the industry in order for intentional storytelling and more of creative pursuits to really come back?
I guess it's not being so reliant on... I really think it's not being reliant on intellectual property these days. I mean, I think that, you know, again, people are trying to make money, and this is a business. And so I understand in the sense that, like, yes, we need to make these big things, but we don't need to necessarily make it because people are familiar with it in the past. Like, you know, I think a perfect example of that right now is Ryan Coogler's Sinners, and how that inherently was a original screenplay and an original idea. I mean, I think it obviously derives from other movies of the past, and nothing is new under the sun, but inherently there was no book that was written about Sinners. There was no video game that was written about Sinners. It was just a great popcorn flick, and, you know, we need more of that, and we need to be not so reliant on the fact that we can only sell things because there was an intellectual property in the past.
One of the things that you just touched on about not having an IP is that there was nostalgia in the script and in the storytelling, and that really allowed people to feel that connection. And look what happened. They showed up. People are showing up for Sinners. And so that's something that is, we are definitely seeing that shift that people are looking for, that people are craving for. And I think that is the beauty of art, and that's the beauty of film, right, is that it does heal and it does bring communities together.
Right. Yeah, and then also, in the sense of, while I think it's 100% important to always be pursuing your creative endeavors, but don't be beholden by just, only saying, I can do nothing but my screenplay that hasn't gotten any headwind in the past, 5 years or something, I think that the one thing that people need to learn, and I even needed to learn this myself, is the fact that sometimes to get your foot in the door, you need to maybe do things that aren't inherently the forefront idea of what is maybe creatively fulfilling to you. I felt like that was one of the biggest lessons that I have learned is you can't just do crazy indie films that no one will see, because you need to kind of accumulate the audience to then get them on board to kind of go down your path. Just expand your reaches and just don't be beholden to what only you like, I suppose.
Yeah, and I feel like you luckily and gratefully are in a position right now where you can explore some of the things that you truly are passionate about, and but like you said, you had to start maybe by doing something that wasn't really what it is that you are looking to do right now, or creative pursuits that you're looking to, do right now. So looking back at your time, and your younger self, what advice would you give your younger self, or to even anyone that is starting out and trying to get into the industry now?
I'd say I almost said say yes to everything, but I was but have your perimeters, obviously.
And model only, and then.
But, I guess yeah, that would kind of be the advice, is just because you think that, this Disney Channel original movie is dumb doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. The industry was ever changing and always expanding, and how, somebody like Zendaya can go from Shake It Up to Euphoria just because audiences understand that this is the foot in the door. I guess any advice would just be it's almost relax and just know that something is going to come, and it's patience and resilience. If you're going to sit by the phone and just wait, then it's not going to really happen for you. If you can't get your content out there, then, go make some sketches with some friends, or make some fun things that, make you feel passionate. Take an acting class, just do something active, because as soon as you're inactive, then it just lies to nothing but being lazy, I guess.
Yeah, and to be open to opportunities, to be open to continuing to learn is really what I'm gathering from what you just said, but also remember to have fun, and to remember to enjoy it, and to be in the present moment, and to be yes, again, we're all human. Things are not going to go as we plan, but to also release some of that control and just trust that what is meant to come. So, going back to, and I know you touched a little bit more about your childhood in the beginning, but going back to the real start of it all, can you just share a pivotal moment from your childhood that really influenced your path?
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, it was going to this acting studio in Texas, where I then met one of my best friend to this day, Thomas Mann, who is also still working in the industry and doing great work. And I'm very thankful for my acting coach, Catherine Sullivan, who kind of brought us into a sphere of acting for film. And so, getting immersed in that community is what was the cornerstone that became the rest of my career. If I hadn't gone to that school, I wouldn't have learned all of these beneficial things that eventually kind of led to my forever pursuit of this career. And so, that was really pivotal. And then it was getting these opportunities with these people that were so open and nice. My parents were friends with all of the cast members and crew members of the Disney show that I was working on. And I was thankful that my parents were even supportive of my career and, willing to take that, next step and bring me out to Los Angeles. And so, it's these communities that I was very lucky to be a part of, but grateful that it wasn't, dealt with in a cynical or harsh way. And it was, it was a positive experience that then would led me to want to pursue this to the ends of the earth, I suppose.
Yeah, and we are so excited for everything else that you are going to create and still have yet to create, so we will definitely be on the lookout for that. But thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being you. And to everyone at home, always be you. Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel.
Thanks for listening. Did you enjoy this week's journey? So do we. So head on over to our YouTube channel where you'll find an extended version of this week's episode. And don't forget to give us a follow on all of our other socials at NextFoundArtist. Also, head on over to our website, nextfoundartist.com, to find and watch independent films from your next favorite artist.